Another day that we come in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our podcast as we continue to talk about things that are exciting to us and things that we all have to deal with, and not just certain classes of people, but everyone in general has to deal with certain things. And the topic of today's story is called procrastination. And procrastination, I saw this. I saw this wonderful, and we all deal with procrastination. Before we get into that, is just when we put off things and we continue procrastination. We continue to put off things. We know they're important, but we seem to keep putting them off, putting them off, putting them off, and putting them off. So yesterday I was stumbling around. I was stumbling around on YouTube. I was stumbling around on YouTube, and lately I've been watching a lot of TED Talks. I've been watching a lot of TED Talks and how just certain things that I've been showing, certain things that I've been just trying to figure out, how people present, how people look. And I came across this video called, The Mind of a Procrastinator. And I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And as normal, I was supposed to be doing something else, but, the video came up. So, it hooked me in. And usually the videos, the first thing I do is I look at the views. I try to look at the views and see how many views this video has obtained, how many views. And usually if it's not that many views, that's telling me that it's not that great, but maybe it depends on when they produced it. But if it's, if it's a million, it's a video has a million views, I know it's a lot of people have watched it, and, it obviously there's a million people are watching it for a reason. So this one had like 19 million views on it. I said, okay, this should be interesting. So the speaker, he was very interesting. He was a male speaker, and he was talking about how we all, he when he was in college, when he first started in college, he had to write a term paper. He had to write a term paper. And so he had his start date when they gave him the assignment, and then he had his end date. And he talked about how he had a plan of action of going into writing this paper. But it seems like when he started to write the paper, the first paragraph or gather the information, something would come up. Something would come up in his mind and saying, well, not right now. Well, let's, you have plenty of time to do this. You have 2 months to get this paper done. And then he was, okay, blew something off. And he talked about how he would sit at his computer the next day, and then something would get his attention. And he found himself going to Google Maps. And he would say, wow, India is an interesting place. India is such an interesting place. So he would go there, and he would look at every little street or whatever for the next 3 hours of, the country of India, just looking and looking. And he said, well, I guess tomorrow we'll start again. And then he would sit down again the next day, and then something else would distract him. And this time it would distract him with videos of stars and their parents and interviewing them and talking about how great they are. And he next thing you know, it's 4 hours later. So he's trying to figure out why that he couldn't, get this task done, because time was ticking. So he posted this question, and he posted the question to people, and people were asking him countless times, hey, this happens to me all the time too. But then he dug a little bit deeper into his brain, and he realized that your brain is controlled. And it's beautiful how he presented it. He has your brain's controlled by certain things, and in your brain, you're gonna have your brain's gonna tell you, hey, let's do all the fun things. And he had this little monkey. And he had the rational thought person up there. And they were in his brain, and they were driving. The brain drives the person. And so what happens is when he started writing that paper, the rational thought's like, oh, good job. This is being responsible, and you're on the right task, and whatever. And the rational voice was encouraging him to continue. But then this fun monkey came over and said, hey, you know what? That's great. Let's reward yourself for doing such a good job. Let's do some fun things. And so then the fun monkey took the steering wheel And then instead, it was great how he steered the boat to another direction. Instead of going forward, he kind of pointed him in another way. So this, you can get it still done, but we can have fun along the way. And so he stirred the boat another way. And eventually he got caught over in that zone where it was hard to come back. A lot of times when you're procrastinating, it is so hard to come back from what you're supposed to be doing and get right back on the path of the rational thoughts that are in your mind. A lot of us deal with this. A lot of us deal with this every day. If like we know what to do. Just a minute ago before I got out my equipment to do my podcast, there was something in my mind was saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You have all day to get this podcast up. You have this all day to get this podcast. Don't worry about it. You can do it later on. Go do some other stuff right now that's more important. Go take a walk right now. So I had these same thoughts that were going through my mind right now. And I told myself, get it done. Get it done. Stop making excuses. Stop procrastinating about things that you know you have to get done. And it's just certain things that you have to get done. And I deal with it every day. And with this podcast, and as I told my wife this morning, I said, and she listened to the one from yesterday, and we're new to this and we're learning, but it's okay. And she said, wow, it's getting better. It's getting better. And I said, yes, we got to keep doing it every day. We got to produce things every day so that we are consistent. And we have a little saying in our house, consistent, persistent effort always pays off. And so I told myself as I was leaving today and talk about procrastination and how we have that little monkey, that fun monkey in us that really wants us to be comfortable and be happy, because the hard things, the rational things, the hard things that we have to do every day, the hard things we want to push them aside because they take more brain power. They take more energy from us. But when you're on that other side and you're in that playground and just sitting there, and we talked about how when you go and you play, you feel good. You feel good, but you're not getting anything done, but you feel good. It's a reason why bars, most bars, they never go out of business. It's just a place where you go there, forget about your problems and just hang out. I don't see too many bars that go out of business. And the reason why they probably do go out of business is because maybe it's a bad location, whatever. But I noticed they're always in business. But that's another story, another time. So today, as I was looking at procrastination, I have this project I've been putting off and putting off and putting off. And to be honest with you, this project would take 1 hour long to get done. And as I was listening to the video yesterday and talking about my project, we don't seem to get motivated until we have a deadline. Until we have a deadline, we're not motivated to get it done. So I have to get this water valve replaced in some of my pipes. And I look at this water leaking every day. I have something to catch the water. And drip and then go into the runoff sink. And it really hasn't bothered me. But then I had someone come in and say, hey, you know what? You need to get this fixed because it can get someone sick. And it's not a good thing to have. And I said, okay. But still was enough pressure to get it done. And then something in my mind said, get it done before it's more problem than it's worth. Because the bad thing about it, all the material that I needed is sitting in my garage. I went out there last night and I moved, we had this mattress that we're throwing away, and the box springs, they were in front of my copper pipes or whatever. I moved it out of the way. I said, okay, here's the elbow. Here's another elbow. I said, you need an elbow. I said, here's the pipe that's sitting there. Here's the sandpaper to sand the pipe. Here's the pipe cutter. And here's the valve. It's sitting right there. And you don't just have one valve. You have two valves there ready to go to work to solve the problem. I said, what's the problem? I said, well, you're making excuses why you're not getting stuff done. And I said, and I called this person, and I told this person, okay, because it has to be inspected by the city or whatever. I said, on such and such date, the project will be done. So when I put that date on it, then I realized it has to be done at a certain time. And that's what yesterday, the video, he says, the little monkey, he's scared of the panic monster. He's scared of the panic monster. The panic monster will come out and he will chase everything away. He said, hey, this needs to get done today. And so the same thing happened. And I put a date on this situation that has to get done at a certain time. That's the panic monster that came out. I said, well, this has to get done. And it will get done. But I shouldn't have to bring that panic monster out to get things done. We shouldn't have to have that panic monster and scaring away to everything. We should have everything organized, everything going a certain way. But we seem to procrastinate, put things aside because we have other things going on that is so important. And as I told myself about this pipe situation, I said, this is what we're going to do. Each day, because I have to get it done by like next week. I have like a week to get it done. Each day, and this is where we set it up. Each day, do a little bit. So that day that you get, because I had to get a pro press to, put the pipes together. Once you get that pro press, get it, do it, return it, because I had to rent it from a company. I said, the job's going to take maybe an hour, if that. The hardest part about this part is just draining some of the water. But I said, every day we have maybe have a week or less than a week to get it done. Each day, do a little bit, because it's not like this is the first time I've done this job before. And I know that the more that you do up front, the easier the install day, easier it is. So as I reflect back on my days I worked at the electric company and how I was amazed how a lot of the work was done in the yard. A lot of the stuff was done in the yard. The yard is where they keep all the materials, they keep all the poles and transformers and all this other stuff. So as I said, you got to prefab everything, get everything together, get everything ready to go, and you'll be fine. So as we talked about procrastination, I thought it was amazing how we have these three things in our mind. We have the little fun monkey. We have our rational thought that, hey, you need to be taking care of this, taking care of that. And then we have our panic monster. That's when we panic and it scares everybody, gets everybody going. So hopefully it helped you out today. Had a good time talking about that. Thought it was interesting about how procrastination of the mind of someone, as we continue to get better and better, continue to keep pushing yourself to greatness. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.